through a good deal of Stoic practice if you want to try and make this work for you on a daily basis, and even indeed on a moment-to-moment basis, because you can apply this dichotomy pretty much anywhere at any time to any situation. Is what I'm worrying about within my sphere of control or not? If not, do I really need to be worrying about it? What am I expecting to get out of worrying about it? And what other options might there be available? So yeah, you've got what's not in our control and level of time. The past can't be changed. The future can't be wholly controlled. You can do various things to prepare. The present, as we've been hearing from Chris, is where it's at and where you're at, and where what is in our control is at. What's in our control? I'll just share with you a rather distasteful mnemonic. The more distasteful your mnemonics are, probably the more you'll remember them. So BDA, what's in my control? The public displays of affection, I'm really not a fan. BDA, beliefs, desires, actions. That's it. What is true? What is appropriate? Desires and aversions, what do I want and what do I want to avoid? And actions and words, what can I say or do? So get some BDA into your life. Is the message, and just not on the train. So Stoic wisdom is wisdom, I think, at some level about these three subjects. All right, so I was going to talk about how you apply that to living with other people. And in a sense, what I will talk about really just builds on these things. So there we are, we're racing through. I want to talk about something which I find tremendously helpful, which is the Stoic work or ideas, mainly in Marcus Aurelius, on dealing with an experience which I think we all will have, we all probably have had, and with the online environment, we're all more potentially exposed to than we have been previously, because we may be communicating with many more people, many of whom we may know next to nothing about, and some of whom may not be acting with the best intentions. So I think Stoicism's online valency, I think, is potentially really there, like its relevance. So if somebody insults you online or offline, first of all, if they've said something true and you have behaved poorly, really it's not easy because we have egos, but it's best practice to try to actually respond. Maybe they're pointing out something that's true and valid, and this is an opportunity to change. Secondly, if they've said something true and abused you, I use the tune the radio dial metaphor. Try to tune the radio dial to block out the abuse and just go for the content. The same with emails. When people send you emails which are, 40% information, 60% emoting, try to just go for the information. So it's like tuning the radio dial to get the fuzz out. Ask yourself, do this person who's insulting you, particularly if it's online, do they know you enough to really be saying anything informative about who you are? So do you value their opinion, and really do you need to? Often you see this a lot. People don't value the person's opinion and get upset by it. And it's like, choose one. This person's an idiot. I watch a lot of reality TV, that's the way I unwind. And what they say has completely psychologically destabilized me for the course of the entire series. So if they've seen 140 characters on your Twitter feed and abuse you, what really follows from that? They don't really know much. If true, change it. If false, don't sweat it. So what is true here? What do I know about it? Divide the reported action, Marcus Aurelius says, from any sense of you're being harmed. So somebody has insulted you, that's in the world, and you can't change it. That you have been harmed, Marcus says, is an event that may or may not take place in your soul, and you'll have to assent to that. And you have a say in whether you do or not. This is why Socrates, I believe, said that the good person can't be harmed. Of course, you can blow them up, but he means in their soul, unless you give another that power. Secondly, make sure what is reported about this other person is actually true. So there are people who scheme and who say, Bob said this about you, and then you get really angry at Bob, and then you realise that Bob didn't actually say that. Make sure you have adequate information. Nothing worse than flying off the handle before you've actually got sufficient data. Embarrassing. Leave the wrong with the wrongdoer, I think, is the basic Stoic principle. Someone's lied about you, that's their bad. You haven't done anything bad for the Stoics, and therefore potentially there might not be a reason for distress. If you know for sure that they've done this, make sure that they've acted out of wrong motives. There's another level of kind of complexity, I guess, before you kind of fly off the handle. Maybe they meant to do something good, and people always are acting for the sake of what they think is right and good. Maybe they were just having a bad day. Maybe they were misinformed. Recollect that no one does wrong through mistaken beliefs. I think this is a really important Stoic idea. It's meant to promote a kind of forgiveness, I think. Even people who are the worst kinds of people, and there are many out there, they always feel like they're doing the right thing. Epictetus says even the thief thinks that by being a thief, they're bettering themselves, potentially those they love, and so on and so forth. It's just that they've chosen to do it by being a thief. And here are some bigger picture kind of Stoic ideas. Recollect that this is really a passing episode. It's not your life that's sort of being judged necessarily. I always think to myself, if I don't respond to this person in a week, will I remember that they even emailed, if they've emailed me something aggressive. And I mean, as a rule, if you kind of you can just let a lot of this go. And if you don't give oxygen to someone who's trying to bait you, then the oxygen just disappears from the balloon. Remember that if we're honest, there are many things which should be criticized, Epictetus says. You know, why only go for the fact that, you know, I smell bad, you know, I also look bad, you know, I'm not a great husband at times, you know, my Greek's really weak, whatever, you know. There's also, sorry, remember that the best revenge, and this is the key one from Marcus Aurelius, 6:6 in Marcus Aurelius, remember that the best revenge is not to be like the person at home. I think that's one that's really always really resonated with me, and that's me done. And Judy.
Thanks, Matt. I'm going to be really brief. I'm just going to talk very quickly about a Stoic practice which comes up in Epictetus and which I just refer to by the name festival. So Epictetus advises us to treat gatherings and social events as special occasions. And if we do that, we get more likely to overlook all the things that go a little bit wrong or the little inconveniences that occur, as we do when we go to say a festival or a play or something that's a public event. And he also says, and the converse of this as well, is when we're on our own, we shouldn't worry about being on our own. We should rather reflect that we have the peace and freedom of the gods. I think that's a very powerful reminder for when we're on our own. I'll just read out, it's in your sheet as well. Whereas in fact, if you're living alone, you should call that peace and freedom. Because how often do people complain about not having peace and freedom, right? But it's always there if they choose to see it. And view yourself as being like the gods. And if you find yourself in the company of a mass of people, you should call that not a mob and a source of uproar and vexation, but rather a feast and a public festival, and so accept everything with contentment. That's Discourses 1:12-22. So I'll just leave you with that one. Roger.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to talk about, am I coming through okay? I'm just going to talk about how to do an evening reflection. So often in Stoicism, there's a stress on morning setup for the day, which is very useful, and then an evening reflection. So a way to do an evening reflection, which you may or may not come across, can be something like this. So what I do is think about 7 elements. There are the 4 virtues, if you like, the 4 classic Stoic virtues, and then the 3 disciplines. And I assess basically how the day went and how I went against them, and then what lesson could I take against them. So I might talk, for example, to myself and document to myself, how did I apply the discipline of desire? And that means, what do you want? During the day, you seek money? Did you seek popularity? Did you seek lots of good food? Or did you seek the development of your character? And at what points in the day did you seek the development of your character? because in Stoicism, that actually is the heart of the matter. In the discipline of assent, did you assent to ideas that would actually not be appropriate, that you'd rather you didn't assent to? So it might be an assent to the idea that someone has hurt you by a comment, as Matt has just talked about. And you can review your day from that perspective. In terms of action, did I act in a way consistent with what I consider to be my values? And do I even know what my values are? And you might review your day from that perspective. And then you can do a simple check. During the day, did I show temperance or self-discipline? During the day, did I show justice? You know, did I actually, in a Stoic context, I often equate that, was I good to others? Did I show justice? And did I show wisdom, which might be judgment, including recognizing what's in my control and what's not in my control, which is often at the heart of Stoic wisdom, knowing what's in your control and knowing what's in your control. And then finally, courage. Did I show courage? Did I face that which I might otherwise be frightened of? Bearing in mind that I am human, reason does not always reign. There are lots of little psychological subsystems that will just pop into my head, and it will for all of us, that are not under the control of reason. Did I have the courage to calm myself down and apply reason to do what must be done, to do what Greg said, which is, well, this is bad, but I'm going to actually face it. So that actually in your end of day reflections builds on 3 Stoic disciplines and the 4 virtues, the 4 core virtues. Now, the last of those I've talked about is courage. And so I'm actually just going to introduce Lyn and ask Lyn to speak a little bit on courage, if Lyn would come up and do so, because Lyn, I think, is pretty good at courage. So would you like to come up, and Lyn, and tell us how you think about courage and perhaps even Stoic challenges?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I just want to say I'm not in the same league as this guy sitting at the front when it's come to Stoicism. I just hang out with them so I can immerse myself in more Stoicisms. And the second thing I want to say is, if you do want to participate in organizing Stoicon in the future, please do let Judy know afterward. You don't have to be an expert. You just need the enthusiasms and the intention to help out, to spread the words. That would be great. I've been practicing Stoicism in a very informal way, maybe for the last 5 years, and maybe many years before that without knowing that they're called Stoic principles. I want to talk a little bit about courage. I was having a conversation with Craig at lunch about courage and fear. And I think that a lot of our fears are products of our parents, especially my parents. So they were the one who tell you, like, don't do that, you will die, or don't get close to those people, they'll harm you, that sort of things. So for me, growing up, I was told that you're very small. Don't even try, doing crazy thing with your body. Because I'm the smallest among my siblings. And I was a little bit, my mom was telling me that I was very weak. I don't know why she said that. So just stay home, do your studying, don't go out and play, and don't do a crazy thing. So it took me a while to really question this, because it sort of did sink into me. And I have to, and I'm part of Melbourne Stoa, where we meet regularly, and Roger is the facilitator, wonderful facilitator and organizer. And we talk about Stoic toughening exercises. And if I may share a little bit, because maybe some of you will find it useful or not, is with courage, we all at different point, we all have different perception of risk. There's no right or wrong. But we need to know where we are and what are some of our limiting beliefs. And with the Stoic toughening exercise is that once you know where you are, then you do a little bit to push yourself out of that zone. And eventually you will, you'll be able to do more and more and more and more. So it's not like you are able to dive into 250-meter deep, like Craig did, just overnight. First you need to know that, oh, I've never done diving before. Why don't I start? Okay, maybe I have a fear of water. Why do I have a fear of water? Maybe at one point in my life, my mom said that my cousin drowned. And so that gave me that fear of water, something along that line, but only you know yourself on what is keeping you from doing what you want to do or what you want to try. And so Stoic toughening is basically about pushing yourself a little bit at a time, and whatever that bit is. So for example, sometimes for me, it's just simple things like every now and then I would take my shoes off and walk on some rough surface. Because we're so used to wearing shoes and we're so used to the comfort of life that I want to sort of toughening up and sit and say, okay, I want to know what it's like walking on bare feet. Or, you know, I would take cold shower, which is an interesting topic in our Stoa group. Because in order for you to get to the point where you can go into the ice bath for about 20 minutes, which is very good for your health for a reason I won't go into. But in order for you to get there, you would have to first to be able to have a few seconds of cold shower, and then eventually lengthen it to a few minutes, and then 10 minutes and then to the point where you no longer feel that it is a crazy thing and it is a stupid thing or it is an uncomfortable thing to get into the cold shower. Then you improve to the next level, which is, you know, trying ice bath and so on and so forth. So that is the kind of Stoic toughening that you could try, and it's related to the virtue of courage, because courage is only you need to know that you are being courageous. If you are doing today, if you're doing something that you would not be able to do yesterday, but you push yourself a little bit and you can do that, that you are being courageous. And just quick one on temperance temperance is also something that I practice regularly. So temperance is self-control, and with self-control, I never rely on my willpower. I don't think our willpower is trustworthy, and don't test it, don't push it. So don't think too highly of yourself that you have, you know, strong willpower and you can resist temptation. My tips is about setting up your environment so that you don't get yourself, you don't have to spend too much of your willpower. They say willpower is a bit like currency. When you get up in the morning, you might have a lot of willpower, and then you go through your day, and then by the end of the day, you open your fridge and you have a donut. So that's because you spend up all your willpower already. So don't spend, you know, you set up your environment so that you don't have to spend too much willpower throughout the day. And the way I do it is, for example, about 12 years ago, one day I was pregnant with my first child, and I was sitting on the bed and I was flicking through the TV channels, and I was thinking, like, hang on a second, you know, this is not a great span of time. And I, being pregnant with my first child, I was thinking, like, I don't want my children to get into the habit of just flicking through the TV channel. So I made the decision to get rid of the TV. And first with the TV in the bedroom, and then eventually we get rid of all the TV. And we haven't got a TV for the last 10 years. It's not that we don't have entertainment, it's just that we make a, you know, conscious decision on what entertainment to watch instead of letting the TV channel tell you what you should watch, mostly bad news. So that is about setting up the environment. Or for example, my pantry or my fridge will be the decision that you make when you go shopping to not buy bad stuff and then leave it there. And then, you know, when you're tired at the end of the day and open your pantry or your fridge and you see those things, and you have to really use that willpower to resist that ice cream or cookies or whatever you think that is not good for you. So it's about setting up your environment, and that would help you with your self-control. So thank you.
Is there somebody from each group who'd like to come up and maybe talk about what they discussed and what Stoic practices they thought would help?
Thanks, Neil. No problem at all.
All right, so yeah, if one person from each group perhaps could just volunteer to summarise the discussion, talk about anything in particular, any insights or moments of clarity or disclarity or questions or anything that is kind of potentially something we might want to discuss as a group. I don't know whether people want to come up and do that, Judy, or
If you're comfortable doing that, that would be great. Shannon, you want to come up?
or else just stand up.
Just watch the cable here as you come along, as you get to the stage.
Yeah, watch the
Bit of a Stoic channel.
Alrighty, yeah. I'll just focus on scenario 2 and 3. So with
Shannon, project your voice.
oh, okay. So yeah, so we just focus on scenario 2 and 3. So with scenario 2, I think we were sort of discussing it as like, well, yeah, so what? Like, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. That like, it's good that our friends have become friends and doing their own thing. And if you were to respond negatively to it, like it's going to be a form of being like overly controlling, and it, you know, it's like undermining those friendships that you already have. So it's like a positive thing. Like, you know, it means the next time you have a barbecue with both of them there, like they're going to go off and they'll be able to chat and socialize. So I think it was like, yeah, like a possibly even positive situation. With scenario 3, we were talking about how it could also be an opportunity for reflection on what you've been doing, because someone's bringing to your attention that something that you're doing for that group is not relevant or is damaging to what the group stands for. So it could be an opportunity to do a reflection on what you've been posting and saying on the group. Not necessarily that you're immediately accepting that you've done something wrong, but it just represents an opportunity to think about those things. And yeah.
Thanks, Shannon. Yep, got someone over there. Maybe when you come to the mic, introduce yourself as well.
Oh, yeah.
Know who you are. That'd be fantastic. Thank you very much.
That's why I got the name tag for.
Yeah, I didn't do it. Hi, I'm Alon. We talked about the scenario 1, and before we started talking about Stoic practices which would help us in this scenario, we all agreed that we all have someone like this at our workplace. Show of hands, who has the person from scenario 1? Thank you, students. Teacher. So we talked about 4 things came up. Firstly, the dichotomy of control, the idea that you are only in control of your reaction to her talking, to her constant vitriol, not of her and what the journey she's going through and what she needs to verbalize about. That doesn't mean you can't do anything, but it means you can only do things that you have control over. For example, you could engineer the environment or the order of the workday such that you will come into minimal contact with her. You can engineer with a colleague that when you give them a sign, they call you away so you don't have to keep putting up with them. So there's things you can do other than frustrate yourself about how you can't control what she's doing. The second thing we talked about was anticipation of adversity. So you know this is coming, you know that this is a difficult person, you know you got a day of work, just anticipate it, be prepared for it, be ready to accept it. The third one, I think there was a quote from Seneca, something about the thief, that he doesn't know better when he steals. She doesn't know better. Whatever works for you, empathy, sympathy, or pity, try and show that. It's sort of like, I think earlier today we mentioned cherishing. Cherish that she's on her own journey, that she only does this because she thinks in her mind that it's the right thing. What was that quote before? People only do, like everyone only takes actions that they think are in good to them, right? And the last one we talked about is that you may need to show the virtue of courage. You may need to assertively say, no, I'm sorry, I can't talk right now, or sorry, I've got a meeting to go to in 5 minutes, or even more so, even quite assertively, you're really bringing down the mood. I can't take this much negative energy. Like, have you thought about it? To the level that you're comfortable? And yeah, that's it. Those are the 4 things we discussed.
All right, anyone else? Volunteers? Yep. Come on out.
Hi everyone, I'm Justin. Our group had a mix of strategies, so a lot of we're really divided. We were doing scenario 1, and we're really divided between people who really just wanted to not get caught up in the negativity themselves and strategies for avoiding that. And then we had people who are going the path of courage, which is actually to discuss
the issue with the person. I chose the coward's approach and just did the premeditation of adversity and just prepared myself to it. And I remembered Zeno's saying, which is we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so just not to get caught of it. And I've just got one observation on this scenario 1 is we're all talking about like this is somebody else, but I could almost guarantee you that every single one of us has probably actually been this person. And the real danger of scenario 1 is you get caught up in it and then you become that person yourself. So that was my strategy. Thank you.
Who else have we got?